Thank you all for joining me this afternoon. I don't know about you all, but I certainly have enjoyed this conference. There has been so much great information. It has really been rich, the presenters and the sessions. And so today, my presentation, we're going to talk about evangelizing in a digital age. My name is Delois Prince. I'm an associate minister and I serve at Union Baptist Jamestown High Point. I am also the founder of Delois Prince Ministries International. So what comes to mind when we think about evangelizing in a digital age? And if you want to, you can just post your responses in the chat. And also, is my moderator in the room? Okay. So hopefully the moderator will join us shortly. Okay, so we'll go ahead and continue. So moving outside of the church and reaching people globally. Anyone else want to share their thoughts on evangelizing in a digital age? Exclusivity, because everyone doesn't have access to technology. That's a great one. Okay, so let's carry on here. So as of 2017, the average person spends around 2 hours a day on social media. This adds up to about 5 years and 4 months spent over a lifetime. Now, when we look at social media ranked against other daily activities, this shows us that the average person will almost spend 3 times as much time socializing on social media as opposed to socializing in person. The average adult spends most of their waking hours behind a screen for work, entertainment, education, and socializing. Can you all still see my screen? I see a message in the chat that said you can't see or hear. Can you all still see and hear? Okay, thank you, Charmaine. There are 7.5, almost 7.6 billion people in the world. 4 billion of those people use the internet. 3 billion are on social media. And so this is one of the main reasons why digital evangelism is so important, because the digital mission field is vast and it is not restricted by geographical location. 42% of the world, as you can see on the chart here, is on social media, and 77% of Americans use social media. Every continent is represented in the digital space. Now, Christianity may be on decline in the West, but it has never been easier to reach people. And so this is the time that we really need to tap into digital evangelism so we can live out the Great Commission on the digital field. So let's look at what digital evangelism is. So we're going to break it up into 2 parts, digital and evangelism. So let's first look at what digital marketing is. Digital marketing is the promotion of products, services, causes, or ideas in the online space using digital technologies and tools such as the internet, social media, paid display ads, website platforms, and mobile phones. Now, let's take a look at what evangelism is. The act of publicly preaching the gospel and the teachings of Jesus Christ to persuade people to adopt a Christian worldview. So when we put those two together, we get digital evangelism, which is promoting the good news of the gospel and the teachings of Jesus Christ in the digital space using corresponding technologies to persuade others to adopt Christian beliefs. So basically, it's just evangelizing through social media and through digital sources, through digital outlets. So the need for digital evangelism. Prior to the pandemic, only 20% of Americans regularly attended church, and only 2 in 10 millennials consider regular church attendance important. So if we consider the time spent in church as a member who attends twice a week for worship, for one service and one other event, that person is only engaged for 4 to 5 hours. And now, due to COVID-19, it has completely changed how we do church. And how we respond to this reality either represents a challenge or an untapped opportunity. Because at one time, these statistics made it seem bleak for the church. But now, with the way things are, this is an amazing opportunity for churches to tap into this particular market. And so the situation now, in light of COVID-19, 68% participated in online worship during the pandemic versus 20% who were attending in person. And so this has caused us to reevaluate everything about how we do church. And now instead of being on physical streets, now we are on digital streets of the internet and social media. Church, as usual, will not return, if ever, for a very long time. With digital evangelism, we can go and meet people where they spend their time, not where we want them to be. We have 9 or more hours a day to connect with them. And part of this effort, we have to utilize digital technologies to better understand the behavior and needs before creating programs or resources that satisfy our assumptions about our target audience. I read somewhere that during the pandemic, Google searches for prayer have surged worldwide in step with the surge of emerging cases of COVID-19. According to a European researcher, data on the internet searches for prayer for 75 countries, they found that the search intensity for prayer doubled for every 80,000 new registered cases of COVID-19. So this increases of prayer intensity documented here, these are the largest the world has experienced since 2004. And that's the date that Google actually began tracking these trends. And so coronavirus has strengthened Americans' faith. It has strengthened people's faith worldwide. And with the digital platforms and technologies that we have today, there's no need why we cannot reach the masses. So let's look at 5 basic steps to digital evangelism. First, you want to determine your target audience and platforms. So this first step in reaching your audience, this will help you develop a clear picture of who you are talking to. It will help you understand their felt needs and their core values. We have to become students of their culture. We must go where they spend their time, and we must speak the language that they speak. So we want to determine your target audience and platforms. Our second step to digital evangelism is developing a strategy. And part of developing your strategy, will be defining your purpose for being on social media and utilizing digital tools, and then frame your strategy accordingly. And part of this step in developing your strategy, you also want to identify key performance indicators for success, so you can measure if your strategy is effective. Step 3, you want to research relevant content ideas. So when it comes to digital evangelism, content is made or should be made to inform, illuminate, and inspire. Inform, illuminate, and inspire. The church should be the leader in creating content that improves the lives of those they seek to reach and supports their spiritual growth. So researching relevant content ideas, because you just don't want to get out there on the internet and just post anything or get out there and just talk about anything. We have a lot of Facebook preachers who come on live and they don't really have any relevant content. And so having relevant content is what is going to keep your audience that you have drawn. Our fourth step, we want to make time for engagement and community building. The church experience should extend beyond the confines of time and space. And with the onslaught of COVID-19, we've been able to not be contained to the four walls of the church. And so when we make time for engagement and community building, digital evangelism provides you an opportunity to provide 24/7 support, not only to your members, but also to your broader contacts. The internet never shuts down, so you can have content all the time. So whereas before, a lot of our contact may have been limited to Sunday morning service, Wednesday night Bible study, prayer meeting, what have you. But now in the space of digital evangelism, we're not confined to that. And we're not confined to time, and we're not confined to space. Step 5, you want to engage in digital door knocking. So I remember participating on evangelism street teams with many of the churches that I've attended. And we would go door to door. We meet at the church. We break up into groups and we go door to door, knocking on people's doors, offering to pray with them, handing them out literature about the church. But now it's really not feasible for us to go knock on physical doors in person. And so digital door knocking is when you share spiritual content on your social media profiles or through messaging and email to create an opportunity for people to engage with you about your faith. The life, character, and gift of Jesus Christ should be on display in all of our digital content and interactions. Because Jesus, he came not to uplift himself, but to reveal an accurate picture of God's character. It's not about how many followers we have on our digital platforms, but it's about how people can and do discover Jesus Christ through us. I want to pause. Are there any questions at this point that anyone has? Okay. If there are no questions, we shall continue. So let's take a look at the model for digital evangelism. So here our model, we have a three-tiered model: content creators or creatives, engagers, and we have distributors. And so a model for everyday ministry to real people and how to use social influence for the kingdom, for kingdom building, as it was demonstrated through the life of Jesus Christ. During his 3.5-year ministry, Jesus, he shared stories, he shared godly wisdom, he attended to people's needs, both spiritually and physically. He answered people's questions regarding spiritual matters and everyday challenges. He gave them hope. He created community. He developed and engaged active church body. He led people to wholeness. He equipped people to be disciples and to replicate the model that he developed. And when we use this model, this is a way we can follow Jesus' example while utilizing modern tools and technologies. So this approach is integrated and it weaves traditional methods together with digital methods to help magnify our efforts for a wider impact in the physical world. So let's break down the digital components of the model. So first we have the content creators. And these are those who package the gospel message and teachings of Jesus into various digital-friendly formats, such as videos, blogs, images, and podcasts. And I'm pretty sure some of your churches, you might have a lot of millennials who are creators or in that creative space. You utilize those young people. Let them be your content creators. Distributors. Our distributors, these are the organizations, and this will be your church or individuals who use digital tools and technologies to share content within their sphere of digital influence. And then finally, we have our engagers. Our engagers are emphatic individuals within the organization or operating independently who engage in online conversations for the purpose of building meaningful relationships, better understanding needs, and determining meaningful ways to serve others in the community. And so when we look at those who engage in digital evangelism, these people are called digital evangelists. And every organization should develop a strategic plan for digital outreach that covers these basic three elements. Individuals, they may fall into at least one of these three categories, but you can have individuals to serve in multiple capacities. They can be a content creator and they can be a distributor. And our digital evangelists, these are the ones who share their faith and beliefs in the digital space with digital tools and technologies without being physically confined to a single geographical location. These evangelists, they can fulfill these roles on their own or work within a network of digital missionaries to optimize reach, build community, and share content. And so I see we have someone posted a question. Is there a digital database system that one can use to keep track of those you engage in evangelism? Yes, there are systems out there that churches can use to engage or to keep track of members. One of these ways you may just use, you can use Access, because it's a database for information. You can use Excel as well if you're looking at an economical way to keep track of members. Now, there are programs out there that churches can utilize, but those programs, they are usually available at cost. And I'll be glad to get with you, Dr. Williams, to share that information with you if you're interested in that. Thank you for the question. All right, so once we have established the basis for our digital evangelism, let's look at the digital ministry ecosystem. So from the previous slide, we have the content creators, the creatives, we have the distributors, and we have the engagers. And so now let's look at the content that the creatives are creating. Let's look at distribution, and let's look at engagement and community building. So what comes to your mind when we think about an ecosystem? Most of the time, this is a term that we hear in the science field. Rainforest. Thank you. Any other thoughts that come to mind when we think about the word ecosystem or hear the word ecosystem? Okay, so an ecosystem is a community of living organisms. I see synergy. Thank you, Clarencia. A community of living organisms in conjunction with the non-living components of their environment interacting as a system. It breathes, it lives, it moves. By creating an ecosystem of digital missionaries, this will help you capitalize on each other's areas of specialty through mutual collaboration and shared social influence. A group of digital missionaries can learn as a group and adapt to changing technologies, increasing their ability to address relevant topics in a timely manner. This ecosystem provides structure for content creation that reflects the official mission and branding of a ministry. An organization should also develop a system of distribution internally as well as externally to determine the ways to tap into the reach potential of its members. And so each organizational level both creates and distribute content through their digital channels, up the chain, down the chain, and then to the external audience. So let's take a look at some of the ways that you can distribute this information. So here in our diagram, you see that we have the Great Commission here in the middle, and we all know what the Great Commission is, go ye therefore. So let's look at the different ways that churches can distribute or can engage in digital evangelism. So we have platform-specific ministries. Small group ministries that is intentional, lay-led small groups that deepen and expand the ministry of a congregation. These groups can be a catalyst of change in people's lives. And this small group ministry, it can take place through Zoom or any other interactive system that you like. With Zoom, it can be intimate. Within Zoom, the capability, some of the capabilities, up to 200 people or more. And there's also features within Zoom that allow you to have breakout rooms. And so people can interact in a smaller and intimate setting. And then you can still bring everybody back to the whole group to get feedback. Then we have messaging app ministries. 2.5 billion people worldwide will use a messaging app at least once a month. So messaging apps, we're looking at like WhatsApp, Telegram, Tango, There are literally thousands of messaging apps out there that you can utilize. And with these messaging apps, I'm sure there are members that you have in your congregation that have these different apps as well. And you can simply reach out to a person and share a Bible verse or share some inspiration, or just reach out to a person to let them know that you're praying for them. One way we can also use messaging, text messaging. There was an experiment that we can do with your own telephone number. So with your telephone number, you can take your telephone number, and with the last 4 digits, the last digit, go up a number or go down a number. These will be your telephone neighbors. And you can just text that person and say, hey, I want to let you know that I'm praying for you today, even though you don't know that person. I read a story where this young lady, her father had died, but she would still text his number every day. His number had gotten reassigned to someone else. And the guy that would get the text message, he would read the text message, but he never responded back. So one day he decided to respond back. And he told her how her text messages had really touched him and had really changed his life. And so because of her just texting her dad's cell phone number, even though he had passed, she was able to reach this person whom she had never met. Podcasts. Earlier this week, we had a session on podcasting, on how to get started with that. The number of worldwide podcasters, listeners, is expected to soar to 1.8 billion by the year 2023. And on average, podcast listeners devote 26 minutes and listen to a podcast up to 7 days a week. Now imagine even if just the sermon was transcribed onto a podcast. Imagine the number of people that you could reach. People listen to podcasts all the time. You can listen to a podcast while you're cooking, while you're out going for a jog, while you're in the car. And so this is really, there are a lot of podcasts out there, but it's still a really untapped potential in the digital evangelism market. YouTube. Now we know, I'm sure everybody has a YouTube account. It is the second most popular search engine on the internet. You can create a YouTube channel. Over 30 million users visit this platform every day. And over the past year or two, YouTube, they've introduced YouTube TV, and now you can go live directly from YouTube. And even with Zoom, you can stream to Facebook Live automatically from your Zoom meeting and to YouTube Live. And so these are really great areas for your ministry to tap into when you are trying to reach the masses. Digital prayer ministries. As I stated earlier, there was a 50% surge in online searches for prayer as people have turned to religion to cope with feelings of anxiety and hopelessness. You can do a prayer marathon over text message or through a messaging app, because people are always in need of prayer and seeking spiritual guidance in these times that we live in. Then we have bloggers. 77% of internet users read blogs. Churches who use blogs have a greater potential to increase their reach and drive more traffic to their website. I'm sure you have a lot of writers in your congregation, and a blog doesn't have to be lengthy. It can be 250 to 300 words. That's really nothing to write on an engaging topic. You could do a blog study on faith. And in a blog, you could talk about your experience with faith, or you can talk about a time when your faith was tried. A lot of times bloggers use their own personal experiences to connect and relate to their audience, to those who they're reaching. Any questions? 26, I did say 26 minutes. And I had a question, did the church see this 15 years ago? I don't think so, but I think the church is more open to it now, because I can remember a time when social media and the church was like a no-no, because they always wanted people to be there in person. But now, with the way our society is, if you don't adapt these methods of evangelizing, then your ministry may die, because the digital field, as it says that the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. The harvest in the digital field is amazing. And yes, adaptability is key. Yes, I will provide a copy of the PowerPoint to LaKesha. Can someone give me a time check on how much time I have left, since I don't have a moderator? I would appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so now that we've looked at what digital evangelism is, we've gone through a digital evangelism strategy, and we've looked at the steps to help you get started in digital evangelism. We looked at some statistics and reasons why we need to be involved in digital evangelism. So now I do have some ideas here for you to get started. So one thing that we can do, you can do this during service, even during virtual service. Acknowledge digital methods during the service. For example, service selfies. Post on social media and tag the church with a hashtag. Empower youth to use their online influence for good, to provide training related to starting online ministries. Ask ministries to include digital strategies in their plans. I already said utilize the talents of writers, designers, and photographers. Use those creatives that are a part of your congregation. There are digital mission projects that you can engage in. For example, assist unemployed members or community members with resume writing virtually, or take a digital missions trip. Also, you could become a digital missionary. Globalmediaoutreach.com is a website where you can witness to people through your cell phone. So basically, people, they have people that come in and they ask, hey, I want to know about God, or I need somebody to pray for me. One user's testimonial is that in less than a year, they have helped 226 people develop a relation with Jesus Christ through email as an online missionary. And on World Evangelism Day, Internet Evangelism Day, more than 6,500 people emailed Global Media Outreach and a global online missionary and asked to know more about Jesus. And so the website for that is globalmediaoutreach.com. Imagine being able to reach 200 people in a year through your cell phone, to be able to witness to them the gospel of Jesus Christ. Virtual baptism. Earlier during the pandemic, I saw Pastor Mark Moore Jr. helping a member to baptize their child. And so because we weren't attending church in the actual church space, he had them on, I can't remember if it was Facebook or it was some video app that he had the member on, and their mother was going to baptize them. And so they had filled the bathtub with water, and he walked the mother through the sacrament of baptizing their child, because he wasn't able to baptize the child, but they wanted to be baptized. And why can't we have a virtual baptism? Why can't we empower the member to do these things? Well, some people might say, well, you need to be ordained to, to baptize. But I mean, in the time that we're living in, that's a technicality, in my opinion. Now, I have nothing against ordination. I'm ordained myself, but how much more will that baptism mean to that child and to that mother? As a mother, I took part in my child's baptism and dipping them into the watery grave and bringing them up into a newness of life. How many people can say they can share, they have that experience? Texting campaign. There are texting services where you can put all your members' telephone numbers or visitors' telephone numbers into this system, and you could automatically send texts to people. You can send encouraging texts. You can send them information about virtual events that you're having. So texting campaigns have become really popular. They were becoming popular as we came up to the pandemic, but now they're more popular than ever. Virtual baby dedication. In our particular church that I serve in, we have someone who wanted to have her twin girls dedicated, but we're not. And this she asked before the pandemic, but now that the pandemic is here, we can't dedicate the babies in the church. So what you can do, you can send. Usually you can get the little baby dedication booklet, mail the booklet to the parents. Have them get dressed. You can do this on Zoom or Facebook Live. You have the congregation there. You can share on your screen what the congregation has to read as to how they will support the parents. And you can have your baby dedication right there on Zoom. Virtual communion. People don't have to come to the church to pick up the communion sacrament. They can bless bread or crackers, bless water or juice, and they can partake in the sacrament at home. Because it's symbolic of Christ's body. And so what makes the communion cup that I go pick up from the church more sacred than my Cheez-Its and my Snapple? Nothing. You bless it as you would bless the other communion, and you take part. And we have communion every first Sunday on Zoom. Use of social media, Facebook ads. Facebook's ads, they are relatively inexpensive, and you can run them for days, and you can pick out the audience that you want to reach, like the age, the geographical location. That's another way that you can utilize a digital platform. Redesign your church website. Make it easy to read. Service times and streaming platform information should be posted on the page. People don't want to have to do a lot of clicking around to find something. Within the first 2-3 minutes, if they have not found what they're looking for, they're gone off your page. Make sure your church is on every social media platform. There are over 75 top platforms of social media available. And yes, this does include Instagram. Have many tech sessions online to teach older members how to engage in social media. One church I attended, we have Bible study on Tuesday nights, but we set aside one Tuesday night as Technology Tuesday. And we had our young adults, our millennials, they broke off into sessions. We had a Snapchat session, we had a Facebook session, we had an Instagram session, we had a Twitter session, and they personally helped our older members download these apps onto their phone, get them registered so they could engage in social media. Get an app created for your church. Virtual scavenger hunts. You can have these with the youth, with the kids in your church, or with any children. Get your youth involved. Allow them to do a challenge on TikTok. TikTok has a reputation of being popular with teens, and 27% of its users are between 13 and 17. The largest age demographic, 42%, is the young adult crowd. Craigslist. You can go to Craigslist, click on the listings for your specific location. Under the for sale, click the wanted category. Find a listing for someone in need. Meet their need. So these are just some ideas that don't cost a lot. Some of them are free to get you started with digital evangelism. I hope that this presentation has been helpful for you. Do we have any questions? Okay. Well, if we don't have any questions, yes, I never thought of using Craigslist either, but it is a good way there, because Craigslist does have a negative reputation sometimes, but it can be used for good. Here is my contact information. I am on these social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My telephone information is listed here. Someone asked about the digital. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Someone is asking me about the digital door knocking. With the digital door knocking, this is sharing spiritual content on your social media profiles through messaging and email, so people can engage with you about your faith. And as part of that digital door knocking, you are displaying Jesus Christ in your digital content and interactions. Did that help you? Do we have any other questions? One thing that I failed to mention about the social media, when I said make sure your church is on social media on every platform, Facebook has 1.45 billion daily active users. Twitter, 320 million active users. LinkedIn, 562 million. YouTube registered users, over 1 billion. Pinterest, over 175 million users. Instagram, over 400 million. And so I really hope this information was helpful for you as you get started with digital evangelism in this present age. Reach out to me via the chat here. If you weren't able to catch my information, I will share this PowerPoint with our host, LaKesha. And again, thank you all so much for attending this session. I appreciate everyone's support. Dr. Fowler, I'll post that here in the chat. The information that I just read about the number of users on each platform. And I just posted that information for you in the chat. And if you were able to capture my information, I'll put that back up for you.